I'm Sharon Whealy. I'm one of your practitioners, and I'm here because it's a fifth Sunday, and we like to give Reverend Ronnie a day off every once in a while. So good morning. I hope you all had a good Christmas, a happy solstice. If you are celebrating Hanukkah, and I'm going to move her aside. We'll put her here. It's the fifth day of Hanukkah today, which I looked up is in celebration and honoring education. And as we are a philosophy that believes in education, I thought that was really appropriate. Kwanzaa is also happening, which is African American celebration of family, community, and connection. And so I am glad that my spiritual family is here to celebrate this holiday time with me. You know, and as I was thinking about this, that holidays and other significant days mark the seasons for us. And we have calendars, right? And we check off the days on our calendars. But these calendars are really totally a human thing, right? There's lots of calendars. You know, the Jewish calendar, why Hanukkah and Easter floats is because that goes with a Jewish calendar that they still use to track their holidays. And Islam has their own calendar that they use to track their holidays. And so calendars in and of themselves are just a human thing. So as we come to the end of this year, you know, we think, oh my gosh, it's the end of a year. And yes, it's an end of this time period that we've designated, but you know, the day after New Year's Day, the 2nd, the 3rd, it's just another day in our lives, right? I'm also reminded, you know, in the Mayan calendar, several years ago, it was predicted it was the end of the world. And, you know, in the year 2000, it's the end of the world. All the tech people were freaking out because they didn't know how the computers would roll over. So the world has turned around again. And here we are. And I love that song. It's like, I love Oingo Boingo, but that's like one of my favorite songs. Because it just kind of sums up, you know, we've turned around, we close our eyes, and the world has turned around again. So in preparing for today, I've been bumping into a lot of expectations. And granted, they're mostly self-generated. But as we've been talking about this endings and beginnings, celebration, ceremony is like, oh, the weight of it. Because I know that back before COVID at the Gregory Center, I know that you, this community, practiced a endings and beginning ritual. And that word ritual carries some weight. I did not meet you until 2021 when I was still in Bakersfield, and I introduced myself to you all, telling you I'm coming on Zoom in March, 3-4 months before I actually moved out here. I let you know that I was planning on moving and joining your community. Reverend Janice adapted is the correct word, that endings and beginning ritual to Zoom. And last year was the first year that we were going to do that. Maria and I were planning it, and then my mom had a medical crisis. She just turned 90 before Christmas, so she's still with us. Blessed be. So Maria and Reverend Ronnie created a ceremony to end this year and begin the new year. I'm not doing any of that. So I'm going to talk a little bit about where we've been, moving on with the new year, and we will end with a visioning practice, which you will, if you're online, you will need a piece of paper. Your program has space for you to make notes in it. You will need a pen. If you don't have one, ask your neighbor. I know I bought a box last night because we are moving, and so you know nothing is where it's supposed to be, right? So let's see. Yeah, that's all that part. Thank you, Tamara. And programs. Maria needs a program. All right, while we get that all settled, the first thing that I wanted to talk about is we're leaving the live theater workshop. And I think over the last month, and I'll start crying here, we have expressed our gratitude for this place. When we were coming out of COVID, we were looking for a new place to gather. The Gregory Center was closed. And so Janet has an affiliation with the Live Theater Workshop, and they were looking for somebody. We were looking for a place, and it's been a beautiful relationship. I have loved coming together here in person. We started primarily in the adult theater, very grown up, very nice space. But and one of the things that I loved early on is the set changes, every month, and especially in the adult theater, where they don't really have a curtain blocking the back scenery so much. It's like right there, and I loved coming in, and with every new show, there was a set change. So it always kept it fresh. It's like, what are we coming into? We got to recreate the space every time while still grounding our sacred space. Moving into this, the Children's Center, the Children's Theater, for me, it brought an added whimsy when we had Rapunzel over here, Rapunzel over here, with the tower, and we've had other things that just brought whimsy and magic into our service. May not have meant much to you, but it meant a lot to me. Gotta remember I have a mic up here. But we have begun to outgrow this space. When we hired Reverend Ronnie, we knew one of her charges was to grow our community. We want to not only spread the word, but we want to come together in community. We want to have fellowship. We want to have new members. We want to get this philosophy out into the world, because those of us who live this philosophy really believe that it is needed at this time. And so with Reverend Ronnie coming, she has developed a relationship with Reverend Dr. Jonathan Zins, who is originally a Science of Mind minister, and we have a deal. And we're going to be renting space. We will have our offices and be using the sanctuary, and so we're going to be all in one place. And moving provides us with an opportunity. And in my experience, moving is a great way to shake things up, right? Your surroundings change. You have to figure out where your stuff goes, right? Where's it all? And then you have to figure out a new way of being in that space. It shakes up all your routines. And granted, I have some routines that keep me on track, but there are other routines that moving into a new space, it helps me to break that up so that I can create something new and I don't get stuck in those ruts. We have when we move, we have new neighbors. And sometimes, in our case, we have roommates, which are new opportunities for connection. And there are endless opportunities for creating something entirely new in this new environment. But I also want to say that moving is one of the top 5 stressors in life, right? Public speaking, number 1. Except for those of us who are junkies for public speaking, or musicians, or performers, actors that love being on stage. For most people, it's a stressor. Other life stresses, but moving is often listed in the top 5. And why? Well, because your surroundings change. You have to figure out a new way of doing things. You have neighbors and roommates, new neighbors and roommates. So all of these are challenges and opportunities. And I just want to acknowledge that as we move into this new space. We have a new time to accommodate our roommates as, what space do we get when? So we will be starting later. I'm not happy about it, but, that's part of my accommodations, how I'm getting to change my routines and create something new and different. So we will be starting at 11 o'clock. Our meditations will be at 10:30 at our new location. So if you like to sleep in, we're back to that later time. I mean, we used to start at 10:30, so it's not that big a shift from what we used to do when prior to moving to Live Theater Workshop. So the beginning of the year, the end of the year, the beginning of the year, we look forward to that new year. It's a brand new shiny year, right? And we get to make all these resolutions. It's like this, we have this cultural mindset that the beginning of the year is a time to make changes. Why we have to wait till the beginning of the year, I don't know. I often will also do it on my birthday, which is in the middle of the year, so I get two resets. And what I know is happening is that there is a paradigm shift happening on the planet. I follow a lot of psychics and channelers and tarot people on YouTube, and the one thing that all of these various people, I have one guy, a healer guy in Australia, everybody has in common is there is a planetary shift of awakening. It is happening, it has been happening, and where are we in this paradigm shift? When I was in practitioner training, they always told us that we practitioners are the midwives of this paradigm shift. And what I remind you is that anyone who practices this philosophy, according to Ernest Holmes, is a practitioner. So just because you haven't gone through the training and have a license, if you practice this philosophy, you are a practitioner. You are part of the midwifing of this growth, this spiritual awakening that is happening on the planet. Now, what I see is happening is this divide that's been happening is the pushing and the pulling as people are rooted into the way things have been. They're not able, they're afraid, they're whatever that is, that they want to be in what is familiar. While a large and growing group of us are pulling into this awakened state of being where we value equity, where we value peace, where we value each other, where we value love, where we want everyone to do well, not just a select few. And so there's this divide that's happening, and it's just growth pains. It's just that moving on growth pains. So in 2025 will give us lots of opportunities for growth. Politically, we're having a new administration, like it or not. And all I keep hearing in my head is the line from the movie All About Eve, and Betty Davis says, buckle your seatbelts, folk, it's good, we're in for a bumpy ride. And so where we are in our spiritual practice is how we're going to move through the next 4 years of however that manifests, keeping in mind that we are in this paradigm shift. There's a global opportunity. There's wars around the planet that we can know and hold peace for, that nations are sovereign and that the people have the right to govern themselves. Environmentally, there's opportunities. How do we contribute to caring for our planet? We don't let the government dictate what is going on. Personally, what can we do as individuals to support our Mother Earth? There's humanitarian opportunities for change and growth. How do we better care for our fellow beings? That includes our animal beings and our people beings, and our forests, everything that is alive on this planet. We can look at the equity. Are everyone's needs met? Is everyone being included? And does everyone have that sense of belonging, that their voice is heard? Personally, there's opportunities for growth where we're seeking deeper meaning, and we're moving away from that materialism and more towards a life filled with meaning, actual substance. What is important? And quite often, that's the intangibles. It's not the stuff. And another of the YouTube people that I follow is a gal that her channel is called Do It on a Dime. And she was remarking that while people are enjoying furnishing and making their homes lovely, they're doing it in a responsible way, thrifting, reusing, refurbishing, and not just going out and buying new stuff. And spiritually, we are seeking ways to have a more personal connection with the divine. And however that manifests for each of us, we are moving towards this community. And while church attendance, you can look at all the statistics. I'm a religious sociology major, and you can look at all the statistics, and church attendance is down, but seeking spirituality is actually up. People want substance in their lives, and it's not things, it's meaning. So this year, resolutions, when we make resolutions, We make them what? They last a week, a month. If you're lucky, a month. Maybe into 6 weeks, 8 weeks. But they fall away because they're these grand ideas that we're going to change everything. And even if it's just one thing, I'm going to change my exercise thing. We're going to change everything about that, right? Or my food. I'm going to change everything about what I eat. And then that falls away, and then maybe some of those old habits we don't pick back up, but eventually those resolutions fall away, and we find ourselves 6 months later going, man, I'm back to where I was. So we want to say no to resolutions, but I do want to say hello, yes, to goals. And Edwene Gaines, in her book, The 4 Spiritual Laws of Prosperity, has a chapter, or maybe 2, about goal setting, how important that is to her prosperity mindset. And she says that goal setting sets concrete and practical goals that creates a vessel for which you can catch your good and truly experience your divine nature. And then she has some subheadings. The first one is, goals help us to cast aside our limitations. She says, you are a child of God. You are an expression of the Most High. You are a point of light within the greater light. The second point is, goals help us open ourselves to possibility. Now is the time to recapture the childlike feeling that the world is a rich and abundant place, and that you can do and be absolutely anything you want. It's time to learn to think big again. Her next bullet point about goal setting is, it allows us to let go of self-judgment, that we're not to worry about whether we should want something. If you want it, you want it. And if you don't want it, you don't have to have it. And the thing that I like to add is that, we're never too old or too young, too rich, too poor, to fill in the blank, to deserve more of anything, whether it's money, security, health, happiness, love, or peace. And it's okay to want stuff. And it's okay to want the intangibles. And she suggests that you include both in your goal setting. Goals should be measurable. You should know when you've achieved your goal. Her next bullet point is giving up what you don't want. So when you are working towards your goals, not only do you need to know what you want, but you'll also have to be willing to let go of what you don't want. And so often we just hang on to that stuff just because it's comfortable. We know it's not serving us any longer. We know we're done with it, but it's comfortable and it's familiar, and so we hang on to it. And one of my goals is, in my home, is decluttering, not the whole house. By December, I would like the whole house decluttered, but just month by month, taking not even maybe a room, but a closet or an area. As many of us in Science of Mind, our book collections are beyond reasonable. And so decluttering some of my books is one of my goals. Finally, the last bullet point, nope, that was it. So the next thing is recently in a blog relating to goals. Spiritual leader Michael Beckwith of Agape Spiritual Center was quoted as saying that people suffer from an intention deficit disorder. They simply don't have intentions. Every day, people are pulled by circumstances where the circumstances and conditions dictate how they're going to react moment by moment. This does not serve us. When you establish an intention, you are taking back your life, because intention is the directional focus of energy and a force field. So when we have goals, when we have intentions, again, it gives the universe something to work with. If we can't make a decision about what we want, the universe is not going to give us, because it doesn't know what to do. And that is our philosophy, that we are one with this divine source, but for this divine source to serve us, We have to know what it is we want, what direction we want to head. So this morning, as I said, in your brochures, there is a page, thank you, Maria, for visioning. And if you're not familiar with visioning, this is not so much a practice of what is it that you want, but this is more of a practice of discovering, allowing, what does the highest good want? What does your higher self, what does spirit want for you? And so I've borrowed some of this meditation from our endings and beginnings ceremony, the Zoom version. So I invite you to take a breath. And as you release it, just release any tensions or expectations. If it's comfortable, you can close your eyes as you go within. As you breathe, feel the power of God moving in and through you now. With each breath, with each beat of your heart, sense the stillness. So this morning I invite you to release any old ideas and limitations of the past that you are willing to let go of, so that 2024 may give you its heaven, and 2025 can bring you even greater gifts. All things are done through us. When we intentionally give the Spirit and the law the opportunity to work with us, we open the way for deeper work to occur in us and for us. When we open ourselves to the fullness of Spirit, we create a space in which it may work. Imagine and claim any condition or situation or new point of view that you desire to have in your life. And so, the first question for Spirit is, what is Spirit's highest vision for me for 2025? And you may see colors, you see images, you may hear music. You may hear words or feel something. Spirit speaks to each of us uniquely. What is Spirit's highest vision for me in 2025? The next question, what must I release to express this highest vision? Our endings. What are we asked to let go of? The next question, what is the highest vision calling me into? What is Spirit asking you to step into? Beginning. What is Spirit calling us into? And finally, what is my grounding word? Or as the Do It on a Dime lady said last night, what is our word of intention? I love that. That supports this vision. These words, my word for last year was connection. They could be freedom, acceptance, gratitude, surrender, light, peace, love, beauty, joy, power, life, forgiveness. What is your word for 2025? In 2025, I invite us to lean into our spiritual practices of meditation, connection with the source, spiritual mind treatment, change your thinking, change your life. Work with a practitioner or a coach when things get a little bumpy. Get guidance from a fellow traveler. Take a class, and not necessarily just a spiritual class. Jane Fonda was recently on a Sunday morning talk show, and she talked about adding 7 years to her life, or to our lives. And she said, take an art class. And that art gets your creativity going. It helps you create connections with other people. And we know that after the pandemic, that connection is so critical to our mental and just well-being in general. And set goals for yourself. And as you achieve them, continue to set new goals. And I'm going to end with these words from Ernest Holmes, and it's from page 70 of our Science of Mind textbook. He says, creation is always beginning, but never ending. The slightest thought of intelligence sets power in motion through the law, producing a corresponding thing. Things may come and things may go, but creation goes on forever. That is indeed a wonderful concept, for it means that there will always be a manifestation of divine ideas. They cannot cease so long as God exists. And since God will forever be, there will forever be some kind of manifestation. The invisible will always be made manifest on some plane. So in this new year, may you manifest the love and peace, good health and prosperity, and all the good things that you can imagine and intention. Blessings.